Story number 1. The man who ordered the same pizza every night. I used to work the closing shift at a Domino's just outside a quiet town. It wasn't the worst gig. You clock in, you fold a bunch of boxes, clean some counters, sling a few pizzas, then close shop. Most nights felt the same. Repetitive. Predictable. That's probably why I noticed him right away. It started on a Thursday. I remember because the delivery board was almost empty, and we were halfway through deep cleaning the oven when the phone rang. Late night calls were common, especially from the nearby highway motel or the truck stop down the road. But this one was different. He ordered a single pepperoni pizza, no extras, no drinks, no sides, just the pizza. The voice was low and steady, not rude or strange, just flat, like he was reading a script. Large pepperoni, cash, he said. Then he gave the address, the Pine Oak Motel, room 6. I thought nothing of it. Grabbed the order, hopped into the car, and drove out. The motel was old. One of those places that always smells faintly of bleach and cigarettes, with flickering neon that made the word motel look like it was gasping for power. I knocked. No one answered right away. Then the door creaked open, just a little, and a pale, thin hand reached out with exact change. No words, no eye contact. Just the hand, the money, and the quiet creak of the door closing again. Weird, but not the weirdest thing I've seen on the job. I drove back and moved on. The next night, same thing. Phone rings, same voice, same order, same address, same routine. This kept happening every night. 2:33 a.m. Not 2:30, not 2:35. Always 2:33. At first, it was kind of funny. We started calling him Mr. 233 inches. But after a week or two, the mood shifted. I don't know why exactly. Maybe it was the way he never changed the order, or how the room always looked the same, dark, with curtains drawn tight, or maybe it was the way the air felt heavy near his door, like it held its breath every time I walked up. I mentioned it to my manager once. "You sure it's not just someone working night shifts?" she said, barely looking up from her screen. "Old guys keep weird hours. Maybe he just likes his pizza." I dropped it, but something didn't sit right. One night it rained hard. Roads were slick, visibility was terrible, and I was soaked by the time I reached the motel. Room 6's door was slightly ajar, more than usual. I hesitated. Usually the hand came out right away, but this time, nothing. "Hello?" I called, keeping one foot back. "Your order's here." Still nothing. The door creaked further open. Inside, I could just make out a shadow sitting on the edge of the bed. Perfectly still. I don't know how I saw it, but I knew someone was there, watching, waiting. The smell hit me then. Something faint, but wrong, like wet earth and rust. I didn't go in. I left the pizza on the ground and walked away. The next night, he called again, like nothing had happened. Same voice, same time, same room. I started feeling it then, this growing unease that clung to me even after my shift ended, like I'd brought something back with me. My dreams got weird. Always that hallway leading to room 6. Always that door half open. It didn't help that no one else ever delivered to him. It was always me. I began watching the phone more closely. He never called early, never late, always exactly at 2:33, and the line would cut the moment the order was placed. No thanks, no goodbye. I started asking around. The girl who worked morning prep said she never saw anyone check out of room 6. In fact, she thought it was out of order, that the motel had shut it down after some kind of fire years ago. That stuck with me. I couldn't shake it, so I did something I shouldn't have. I went back during the day. It was Sunday. Bright, too warm for winter. I parked across the lot and watched. No one came in or out of room 6. The curtains were still drawn. I walked up, trying not to look suspicious. The door had a new lock, the kind you'd find in places trying too hard to look secure. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Then I stepped back and looked at the room number. The gold plating was faded. The 6 was barely hanging on. I peeked through the thin slit between curtain and wall. The room was completely empty. No bed, no chairs, no lights, just bare floorboards and a single blackened patch on the far wall, like it had been scorched. A breeze moved through the hallway. It smelled like ash. I didn't sleep that night. Still, when the phone rang at 2:33, my body moved on its own. Took the order, baked the pizza, got in the car. The motel looked darker than usual. The neon sign was off. I parked in my usual spot and stared at the door. No lights inside, no movement. But the air, it buzzed with this low electric hum, like a silence that was too loud. I walked up, knocked once, no response. Twice, nothing. I turned to leave, heart racing, but then I heard it, the faintest sound, a breath, long, slow, like someone standing just on the other side, waiting for me to knock again. I froze. The door didn't open this time, no hand, no money, just that breathing. I left the box on the step and walked away, not daring to look back. When I got to the car, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The pizza was gone. I quit 2 weeks later. Couldn't do it anymore. The store, the smell of melted cheese, the buzz of the order screen, it all made my skin crawl. I took a day job stocking shelves at a hardware store. Boring, but safe. But sometimes, late at night, when I can't sleep, I think about that door, that room, that hand. I even drove by once, months after I left. The Pine Oak Motel was shut down, boarded up, weeds growing through the cracks in the parking lot. Room 6's door was missing, just an empty frame and a burned patch on the wall beside it. I checked online out of curiosity, dug through old news archives, found an article from 2009. Man found dead in Pine Oak Motel after fire. Suspected suicide. Pizza box found unopened beside body. His name wasn't listed, but the photo showed room 6 and a blurry shot of a man standing just inside the doorway, back turned to the camera. I never delivered there again, but every year on the same date at 2:33 a.m., my phone lights up. Unknown number, no message, just silence, and that same heavy breath. I never answer, but I always feel watched, and I swear, I still smell pepperoni. Story number 2, the walk-in that never spoke. I've worked the closing shift at Domino's for years now, the kind of job that becomes muscle memory after a while. The same button taps, the same smell of flour and sauce, the low hum of the dough proofer, and that quiet moment before we lock the doors at midnight. Nothing really surprised me anymore until she started showing up. The first time was a Friday night. It was just after 10 p.m. I was cleaning the prep table when the door chimed, soft and crisp, like it always does. I glanced up and saw her. She didn't look unusual, mid-30s maybe, pale skin, long black hair tucked behind her ears, a worn gray coat with sleeves a little too long. She walked in without hesitation, but didn't say a word. Just stood there, quiet. I gave it a second, waiting for her to speak. Then I smiled and asked, Pick up or placing an order? Nothing. She just stepped forward, reached into her coat, and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Handwritten was a simple order. Small cheese pizza, no sauce. I nodded. Cash or card? She pulled out a crumpled 5 and a few ones. Exact change. No words. Not even eye contact. She just waited quietly while I punched the order in. Honestly, I didn't think much of it. Some people are shy or nonverbal. I didn't judge. She waited in the lobby, sitting perfectly still on the bench by the window. No phone, no fidgeting. Just still. After her pizza was ready, I called out, "Order for," I realized I didn't have a name, but she was already walking toward the counter. She took the box gently, gave a small nod, and walked out. No thank you. No goodbye. The door chimed as she left, and I noticed something strange. The sound of her footsteps, there weren't any. No click of shoes on tile, just the soft sweep of fabric. The next Friday, she came again. Same time, same paper, same exact order, same silence. And she kept coming. Every Friday night, always at 10:12 p.m. Not earlier, not later. I started to expect it, almost planned around it. I'd have the dough ready by 10. Sauce skipped, cheese prepped. My coworkers joked about her a little, called her the mime, said maybe she was part of some weird bet, but they didn't work the late shift like I did. They didn't feel what I felt. Because after the third week, something started to change. It was little things at first. The way she stared, not at me, but through me, like I was background noise. The way her hands were always cold, even when the weather was warm. And the way she always sat in the exact same spot, with her coat folded just right on her lap and her back never touching the wall. One night after she left, I realized her receipt hadn't printed. I checked the register. Everything else was working. Just hers. Then I noticed the security monitor above the counter. I rewound the footage, just curious. The lobby camera showed me standing at the register, talking to no one. My breath caught. She wasn't there. Just me, talking to an empty lobby, handing a box to thin air. I paused the video and stared at the screen. My hand was out, fingers wrapped around something. Nothing there. I didn't say anything to anyone. The next week, she came as usual. And I played along because I didn't know what else to do. Cheese? No sauce? I asked as she handed me the paper. She nodded. Her expression never changed. Blank. Calm. Like someone used to waiting. She sat down while I prepped her pizza. The air in the store felt different when she was there. Heavier. Like the warmth from the ovens didn't quite reach her side of the room. And there was always this faint smell, old paper, or damp cloth. That night I decided I had to know more. After she left, I followed. I waited until she turned the corner near the gas station, then quietly trailed behind, keeping my distance. She walked slowly. No rush. No phone. No umbrella. The streets were empty. She turned into a narrow alley behind a closed laundromat. I picked up my pace, trying to catch one more glimpse of her coat, the way it moved when she walked. But when I turned the corner, she was gone. No doorways, no gates, just brick walls and dumpsters. Gone. I went home that night and couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about that footage, the smell, the silence. The next day, I asked the morning manager, if we kept old incident reports. He looked at me funny, but dug through the dusty drawer in the back office. Most of it was boring. Supply receipts, staff warnings, that kind of thing, but then I found a folded piece of paper. It was a printed photo, grainy and creased, a woman, mid-30s, pale skin, long black hair. Below the photo, missing. Last seen near Domino's on Maple, November 2011. It was her. Same coat. Same expression. I read the article attached. Her name was Dana. She was last seen walking into the store to pick up an order. Witnesses said she left alone, but she never made it home. Her purse was found in the alley, behind the laundromat. They never found her body. I stared at the date. November 11th, 2011. A Friday. The next Friday, I debated not going in. I sat in my car outside the store watching the clock. 10, 10, 10, 11. At 10:12, the lobby light flickered. Just once. I walked in slowly. There she was, standing at the counter, coat buttoned, paper in hand. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time. Her eyes were dark, not evil, not sad, just tired. I took the paper without a word, made the pizza. When I handed her the box, she didn't move, just stared. Then softly, she raised one hand and pointed slowly toward the wall beside the register. I followed her finger and saw a small plaque I'd never noticed before. Faded, almost blended into the wall. In memory of Dana T., beloved daughter and friend. 1981 முதல் 2011 வரை, I turned back to her, but she was already walking toward the door. That was the last time I saw her. She never came again. The Friday after, I waited, but the door never opened. The register stayed quiet. The bench remained empty. I sometimes wonder if that last order was her way of saying goodbye, or maybe she was just waiting for someone to finally remember her name. Sometimes when I close up, I think I catch whiff of that old damp smell near the bench. And the lobby light still flickers at 10:12 every Friday, not always, but often enough to notice. I don't say anything about it anymore, but every now and then I print a small cheese pizza, no sauce. I leave it on the bench by the window, and in the morning, it's gone. Story number 3. The basement camera. The Domino's I worked at was small, tucked between a laundromat and a liquor store. Nothing fancy, just a tight 2-person kitchen, a walk-in cooler, and a basement that doubled as dry storage. I used to cover closing shifts on weeknights. Mostly quiet, mostly cleanup. I actually liked those nights. No customers to rush, no managers breathing down my neck. Just me, a broom, and a playlist of lo-fi beats humming from my phone. The basement wasn't used much, not unless we were running low on boxes or sauce cans. It had this narrow, creaky staircase near the back exit. Always smelled a bit like damp cardboard down there. The light flickered if you stomped too hard. We had a single camera set up down there, mostly for insurance reasons. It was this old grainy thing mounted high up in the corner, pointed toward the shelves. I barely thought about it, until I did. It was a Thursday when I first noticed something odd. I was clocking out late, around 1:30 a.m. The store was clean, ovens off, lights dimmed. I passed by the office to grab my bag, and the monitor caught my eye. It was on the multicam screen. 4 little boxes showing the front counter, kitchen, entrance, and basement. I paused. The basement feed showed a man standing near the bottom of the stairs, still, not moving. I stared at the screen for a solid 10 seconds before I blinked, then leaned in. He wasn't doing anything, just standing there, facing away from the camera, in the far corner, like he was waiting for something. I thought it might be a glitch, maybe frozen footage or old save video. Playing by mistake. I toggled the feed. Still there. Same position. Same dim silhouette. I pressed the intercom button. Hello? My voice echoed faintly through the speaker, then died. The man didn't move. I grabbed the flashlight from the counter. My stomach felt weird, like I'd swallowed air too fast. But I told myself it was probably someone from maintenance or an old camera recording, playing by accident. I walked to the basement door. It was closed, locked from the inside. I unlocked it and opened it slowly. Darkness. I switched on the light. The usual buzzing bulb lit up the steps, but not all the way down. The lower half of the basement was still shadowed. I stepped down, careful not to slip. Each stair creaked under my shoes. Halfway down, I stopped. There was no one there, no movement, no sound, just the hum of the light and the faint scent of cold cardboard. I stood there a moment, listening, nothing. I turned and walked back up. Before I left, I checked the monitor again. The basement feed was now clear. No figure, no shadow, just shelves, stacked boxes, still and quiet. I didn't sleep well that night. The next evening, I came in early just to check. Everything looked normal. My coworker Brandon was joking around, tossing dough like a show-off. I almost forgot about it until around 11 p.m. We were out of box stacks upstairs, so I volunteered to grab some from the basement. The light flickered again when I flipped the switch. A brief flash of darkness, then the bulb buzzed back on. I walked down slowly, flashlight in hand, just in case. Nothing seemed off. But when I turned toward the shelf with the boxes, I froze. One of the cameras, the same one that showed the feed upstairs, was pointing at me now. Not at the shelves, directly at me. I hadn't noticed it moving before. It wasn't motorized, wasn't supposed to turn. I backed up, slowly, turned off the light and went upstairs. I didn't say anything to Brandon, just handed him the boxes and pretended I'd gotten a phone call in the basement to explain why I took so long. But my heart was beating hard, like I'd run a mile. Later that night, while Brandon was taking out the trash, I peeked at the feed again. The camera had shifted back, pointed at the shelves now. I checked the footage history, just static from earlier that day. Nothing logged from the time I was down there. No one ever mentioned tampering. No one else had access to the security panel but the manager, who was off all week. Still, I told myself I was imagining things, but the feeling didn't go away. Over the next few nights, I started to notice small details. The basement door was unlocked when I knew I'd locked it. The feed would flicker once or twice, never during the day, only after midnight. And once, just once, I saw a movement, a figure slipping behind the far shelves, quick and smooth, just outside the camera's range. When I rewound the footage, nothing, just empty space. It was getting under my skin. I told my manager about it when he came back. Said maybe the camera was acting up, or maybe someone was sneaking in after hours. He checked the logs, said everything looked fine. If someone was in here, he said, the alarms would have gone off. That was the end of it, except it wasn't. The last night I worked there, I stayed late to cover for someone who'd called in sick. It was just me. Lights low, ovens cooling. I sat at the register staring at the monitor like I was waiting for something. And I guess I was. 2 a.m. The basement feed flickered. I leaned in. There, at the edge of the screen, a hand. Just fingertips at first. curling around the corner of the shelves, barely visible, as if someone was trying to stay just out of sight but still be seen. My chest tightened. Then the hand disappeared. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I thought about calling someone, but who do you even call for something like that? Instead, I turned off the monitor, locked the front doors, left everything else as it was, and walked out. I never went back. A month later, the store closed. Something about a lease dispute or plumbing costs. I didn't follow the details, but sometimes, when I pass by that part of town, I glance at the building. Lights off, windows dusty, and I swear, if I look just long enough, I still feel like something's watching from the basement window, just behind the glass. Story number 4, the midnight rehire. I started working at Domino's during my second year of college, mostly for the money, but also because the hours worked well with my class schedule. The store was small, nothing fancy, just a few booths, an open kitchen, and a tight hallway that led to the back office and locker room. We were always short-staffed on nights. So, when the manager told me we had a new guy starting on the late shift, I was honestly relieved. His name was Josh. That's what he told me anyway. He showed up just after 9 p.m. Skinny guy. Looked maybe mid-20s, quiet, polite, wore the uniform like he'd done this before. Cap adjusted just right, apron already tied. We shook hands. His grip was light. He didn't talk much, but he knew his way around the oven, folded boxes faster than me, and remembered the topping codes without having to look at the chart. The kind of rhythm that comes with experience. "You worked at another stall?" I asked casually. Josh just nodded. The shift went by smooth. He wasn't chatty, but he wasn't rude either. Just calm, still, like the type of person who doesn't rush or fidget. It was almost relaxing being around him. For a couple weeks, he kept showing up for night shifts, always on time, always quiet, always finishing his list without needing reminders. I figured maybe he was just a seasoned guy, brought in from another branch to help out. Then, one night, around closing, I was cleaning the soda machine when the manager came in with a weird look on her face. "Hey," she said, lowering her voice, "that guy Josh, he's been working nights?" I nodded. "Yeah. Why?" She frowned. "I just got an email from corporate asking about him. They said he's not in the system. At all." I wiped my hands. Maybe the paperwork didn't go through. Number I checked. There's no record of him. No new hire forms, no ID, nothing. That gave me pause. "Who hired him then?" I asked. I assumed it was the evening manager, but she's out this week, she said. "Can you ask him for his full name and contact info before he leaves tonight?" I said sure, but when I went to look for him, he was already gone, didn't clock out, didn't say goodbye, just vanished after the oven cleaning. That wasn't unusual for Josh. He often left without much of a word, but now it felt strange. The kind of strange that stays in your head longer than it should. The next night he was back. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "Manager needs your info, like your last name and phone number for the system." Josh paused. Then he smiled. Barely. "Already gave it," he said, voice low, flat. I didn't argue, just nodded and let it go. Something about the way he said it made my skin prickle. Later that night, when we were closing, I checked the sign-in sheet. Josh's name was there, same handwriting, always neat, always printed, not signed. But when I looked at the clock-in screen on the back computer, his ID didn't show. No employee by that name was ever clocked in. I went back to the paper sheet, touched the ink. Fresh. I didn't sleep well that night. A few days later, I ran into Hannah, a former shift lead who'd transferred stores. We got to talking, and I mentioned Josh. Her face changed. Josh? She repeated. Tall, skinny guy? Dark hoodie under the uniform sometimes? Yeah. Her voice dropped. That's not possible. Josh died 2 years ago. Delivery accident. Drunk driver hit his car on 12th Street, right after a shift. I stared at her. I'm serious, she said. We all went to his memorial. I was there. I didn't know what to say. When I got home that night, I looked it up. There it was, an old obituary. Joshua M., 25 years old, Domino's delivery driver, died March 14th, 2021. Same name, same face. I recognized the picture. It was him. I wanted to believe it was a coincidence, someone with the same name, a look-alike. Maybe the company reused uniforms. Maybe I was just tired. But then came the final shift. A storm rolled in. Heavy rain, wind scraping the windows. I was alone. The manager had left early and the last driver clocked out just after 11. At 11:43 p.m., I heard the back door. Click. Not slam. Click. Like it had been opened and closed. I stepped out of the kitchen. The lobby lights buzzed above. The store was empty. I checked the door. It was locked. From the inside. Then I saw it. A fresh signature on the sign-in sheet. Josh. Same print, same pen. But I hadn't seen him walk in. I walked back toward the kitchen. Everything looked normal. Pizza cutters clean. Dough bins sealed. Then I noticed the oven light was on. Someone had turned the knob. I walked up slowly. The warmth hit my face. And inside, on the middle rack, was a single pizza. Uncooked. Just cheese. But I hadn't made it. And no order had come through. I shut the oven off, backed away. Then I heard it. A voice. Software. From the locker room in the back. I already gave it. My stomach dropped. I turned, heart racing. The hallway was empty. I walked slowly to the lockers. The light above flickered once, then steadied. All the lockers were closed, except one. Josh's. It had a dented name tag on it, faded with time, one I never noticed before. I reached out and touched it. Cold. Inside, folded neatly on the bottom shelf, was an old Domino's hat and a photo, wedged in the corner, a group picture of employees, smiling, holding pizza boxes, from years ago. There, near the center, was Josh, but someone had drawn a red X over his face. I left it, locked the door, shut everything down, and walked out. The next day, I quit. I told them school was getting busy, that I needed more time. But the truth is, I didn't want to go back. Sometimes, I wonder why he came back. If it was unfinished business or maybe just routine. Maybe, after doing something so many nights, your body forgets how to stop. Or maybe he never left. I still drive by the store sometimes. The lights are always on late. And sometimes, when I glance in through the side window, I see a figure folding boxes. Neat, steady, and always alone. Story number 5, room 217. I used to do deliveries for Domino's in a small town just off the interstate. Most nights were routine. Same streets, same motels, same tired faces. The GPS barely mattered after a while. I knew every back alley and shortcut by heart. There was this motel, Sunrise Inn, faded pink sign. Half the letters flickered or didn't light up at all. Mostly truckers or people just passing through. Nothing fancy, nothing memorable, until room 217. Started ordering. There was a Saturday night when I first got the delivery. Large veggie pizza, no olives, Diet Coke. Paid online. Instructions were simple. Knock twice, leave it on the ground. No contact. That wasn't unusual. Some people were cautious or just didn't want to talk. I didn't care. Less awkward small talk for me. I pulled into the motel around 10:15. The parking lot was nearly empty. The lights buzzed above, casting long yellow shadows across the cracked concrete. Room 217 was at the far end, second floor. I carried the box and bottle up the narrow stairs. As I walked down the corridor, I noticed how quiet everything was. Not just motel quiet. Dead quiet. No TVs through the walls. No footsteps. Not even a breeze. I reached the door. Room 217. Knocked twice, like the instructions said. No answer. I bent down, set the pizza and drink neatly by the door, then stood up. Just as I turned to leave, I heard it. Soft footsteps behind the door. Slow. Bare. I didn't wait around. Got back in the car and marked the delivery as complete. Next week, same order, same time, same instructions, same room. I started to recognize the pattern. Every Saturday night, 10:15, room 217, never opened the door, never spoke, just footsteps after I knocked. One night, just to test something, I delivered it 5 minutes early. No sound. I stood there, longer, waiting, pretending to check my phone. Eventually, the footsteps came. Still slow, still measured, right up to the door. Then silence. I left the pizza and walked away. That night, something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but the air around that room, it was different, heavier, like the hallway held its breath. I asked the front desk guy about it the next time I went in. Room 217, he said, barely glancing up from his crossword. That one's closed off. I paused. Closed off? I've been delivering there. He frowned. Nah, that room's been shut since last year. Fire damage. Nobody booked in. I didn't say anything, just nodded and walked out. I figured he had his info wrong. Maybe the system was outdated, but that next Saturday when I got the same order, something in me felt hesitant. I pulled into the lot. Same dead parking. Same yellow flicker from the lights above. This time, as I climbed the stairs, I noticed the numbers on the doors, 215, 216, and then a gap, number 217, just a patched up section of wall. Fresh paint, but slightly off color from the rest of the building, like something had been sealed up. I stopped, looked around. No door, no handle, just smooth drywall where 217 should have been. And yet, the air smelled faintly of oregano and warm cheese. I set the box down where the door should have been. I don't know why I knocked. Maybe habit, maybe something else, but I knocked twice, and from behind the wall, I heard those same slow footsteps, closer. Then something brushed against the other side. Not a bang, not a knockback, just a soft scrape, like fingers. I left quickly, told myself it was a mistake, wrong address. Maybe someone was pranking us, but the order kept coming. Same time, every week. I tried to flag it once, marked it undeliverable. But the next day, I got a message through the Domino's feedback system. It was just one line. You forgot me. No name, no email, just the message. After that, I kept delivering. I didn't tell anyone. Just kept showing up every Saturday, knocking on a wall that wasn't a door, and every time the footsteps came. One night I stayed longer. I backed away from the wall and stood by the vending machine across the lot, just enough distance to see the hallway from my car. I waited and waited, but no one came out, no one took the pizza. Yet when I checked later, the box and drink were gone. Just the faint grease circle where they'd been. A couple weeks later, the motel shut down. I pulled into the lot and saw the sign out front. Closed for renovation. Painted across a plywood board. Windows were boarded up. The lot was empty. And yet, the order still came in. Room 217. Same instructions. I took it anyway. Don't ask me why. I drove up to the chain link fence around the motel. Parked. Got out. Walked up to the gate. It was unlocked. The stairs creaked under my feet. The hallway felt colder than usual. Dust floated through the air, caught in the beam of my flashlight. There was no trace of any room now. The whole wall was being redone. Bare studs. Insulation poking out. But there, leaning against the exposed frame, was a small plastic room number. I set the pizza down beside it. Didn't knock this time. Didn't need to. Because, as I turned to leave, I heard something behind me. A quiet whisper of movement. Not loud, not fast, just the sound of someone standing up, and the faint creak of a floorboard. I didn't look back. I just walked to my car and drove. I haven't delivered since. I switched jobs a month later, but sometimes late at night my phone buzzes. Unknown number, no message. Just a notification from the old Domino's app. Delivery requested, room 217. And once, just once, I saw a pizza box on my own front step. Still warm, no receipt, no name, just a faint scratch on the lid. 2 numbers, 2.1.7. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more stories that stay with you long after they end. Make sure to check out the other videos popping up on your screen right now. You won't want to miss those. And if you've ever had a creepy experience of your own, especially while working late, share it in the comments below. We're listening.